I am Daniel Ligis, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the book that I read for the last 40 years. And today, I have a special guest, no other than Miss Jacqueline Watson.
Hello, Danielle.
Hello, Miss Watson. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm great. Busy, busy like you. So let's talk about the book that you read. And what's the title, Miss Watson?
I read this book. It's called Never Split the Difference, and it's by Chris Voss,
Mm-hmm.
Voss. So I took a while to actually um, to actually get around to it because I kept looking at the book and I kept procrastinating because it says never split the difference. And part of my background, I do mediations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a little bit of um, a topic that you're like, well, if you're trying to mediate and you're trying to be, trying to get people to come to, a resolution, it,
Mm-hmm.
it really kind of threw me off guard. But the difference in this book is I did procrastinate reading it, but this Chris Voss is actually an ex-FBI agent. So
Mm-hmm.
it gives the book a whole different spin when you
Mm-hmm.
think about Never Split the Difference and you think about an FBI agent who technically, they are like negotiating people's lives sometimes, right? So, I mean, their negotiations a whole different stream of negotiations. Um, it was so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm glad I took the opportunity to read it, understanding him, like being an FBI agent, seeing how it makes sense that they have effective principles, counterintuitive to get strategies, and I found it very interesting, right? To
Mm-hmm.
say the least.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, to our listener, Miss Watson before is working in Chartwell as an
Be a labor relations director.
and as as a part of this job, I think the book is related to you, right?
Yeah, because it's like you do a lot of negotiations, but right now I also do mediations. Like I have my private firm that does mediations.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I sell homes as well, I also do mediations, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you're doing mediations, this book really comes in handy
Mm-hmm.
because, you're always trying to bring people to a resolution, right? You're always trying to bring people to commonality,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yeah, so it's pretty interesting. It was definitely a very interesting, you know, um, read for me.
Mm-hmm. Christopher Voss. It says Chris Voss is an American businessman, author, and academic. Voss is a former, as Miss Watson saying, he's a former FBI hostage negotiator. Wow.
Yeah, pretty wild, eh?
Mm-hmm. And the CEO of the Black Swan Group Ltd, a company registered for East Grinstead, England. Wow, that's so awesome, man. So,
Mhm.
if the synopsis of the book, Miss Watson, is all about negotiation,
It
or
is. It's about his life as a hostage negotiator, and he gives you some, views, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, and techniques
how to
from
negotiate?
from his mindset. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
you think about a hostage negotiator for FBI. I mean,
mm-hmm,
it's a pretty intense, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, pretty intense. Uh, and they deal with a lot of very dramatic things, and one move. I mean, you're literally trying to read someone's mindset,
mind.
body language all over the phone, like all over, not even looking at them in person, right?
Mm-hmm,
You're not in the situation, like you're just on a phone, and sometimes you have to make sure you are making the right calls, which
that's
is Yeah, which is
Hmm.
quite interesting, right? It was definitely a very interesting read, and I would certainly recommend if someone was looking um, for a book. You don't
Hmm.
have to be a mediator to read this book. I
Mm.
think everyday life, you can take away some of um, bite-sized pieces of, you know, um,
Information.
information from it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, Miss Watson, can we give us one technique to how to negotiate people that are, yeah, what goes is disruptive people?
Yeah, so
Wh- What the first thing
I
you do?
yeah, so for me, personally, it's all about understanding the person, right? It's all about understanding. So everyone uh, wants something out of it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
understanding what that person wants out of it. But sometimes somebody doesn't want anything. Sometimes it's about also the person being heard, and um, so it's about really kind of understanding people, understanding their mindsets, understanding where they're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then also coming up with how do you come up with a resolution
Mm-hmm.
for the conflict. I totally believe that every conflict has a way to get resolved, every single thing out there. It's a matter of, putting some time and effort and really kind of understanding um, where that conflict is coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and also understanding common grounds, because people may come culturally different, or they come from a different space, and
Mm-hmm.
um, so understanding what exactly the conflict is and where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always a resolution. And that's one thing I'll say, there's always a resolution to every conflict, right?
Yes, that'd be
Mhm.
awesome, Miss Watson. So, if you want to rate the book 1 to 10, where is it?
Definitely, I would give it a 9.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty high up there. It's a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
book, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Miss Watson highly recommended the book.
Never Split the Difference
Mm.
by Chris Voss.
Is highly recommended to read. To like it, share it, and definitely 9 plus. So, Miss Watson, let's talk about housing market in Canada. What is the latest news?
So today is actually the Bank of Canada is probably just about, or will um, announce the next hike, which is today. So the
Wow.
interest rate hike, right, which is
Mm-hmm.
going to be a 0.75 on the basis of 0.75%.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now we're seeing more of a balanced market. We are seeing, you know, uh, homes staying on the market a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so this next hike will really kind of determine where this market will go. There'll be a few people that may have to jump off because, that's just the way it is. There may be a few people that then decide, like, because over the summer, sometimes people are away taking vacation. So there's a bit of a slowdown
Mm-hmm.
anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We'll see if the spring, if the fall brings like a renewed energy, because a lot of times people will start to want to get into a house before the school year starts, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I say to people that are looking, like, you have to live somewhere, right? And the last time I mentioned um, about rent increases and the rent increase rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are in Ontario, they're capped because the Wynne government had capped the rent increase rates a few years ago. So it's only 2.5%, even though inflation is at 5.3,
Mm-hmm.
right? So people have to live somewhere, and rents are at an all-time high. So, my advice to people is, if you can afford a home,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you can build your own equity in that home, then, you know, you should own it, right? Instead of paying
Yes.
for someone else's home, right? Instead
Yes.
of paying for someone else's mortgage.
Definitely. Go for it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Ms. Watson, do you think this interest rate will create bubbles in the housing market?
I think the demand is a little strong. I think you might see a more of a balanced market for sure. Maybe teeter-tottering on a buyer's market, but I don't think it is going to be a bubble because the demand is too high. Um, and right now, what um, the government has also done is they've put in some rules around foreign buyers for the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so foreign buyers are capped from buying properties unless you're a student or any of that. But really, um, that's why they're seeing all these different things happen at the same time. But really, I think the demand is still very high. Like at the rate we are, our immigration rate um, and the amount of people that we're welcoming into our country, I
Mm-hmm.
still think the demand is pretty high for housing, and I don't think that will go away.
Well, at this time, the housing market in Canada is stable.
I think so. I definitely. I mean, listen, it's we're speculating, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a crystal ball that tells me for sure, that the housing market's going to go
Mm-hmm.
into the toilet. But
Mm-hmm.
really, from just what we see the trends and what we're seeing so far, it doesn't look like that market is going to dip too much. We
Mm-hmm.
might see a bit of shaving off the prices because, uh, but there's not going to be any crazy pre-pandemic housing like
Thing like before.
dip. Yeah, like yeah, it's not going to dip, like it's not going to go down like some areas that are on the outer lying areas, for example. Like if you see a small little market on the outskirts, 2 years ago those markets were selling pretty hot. Those markets will drop quite quickly. I think Hamilton has
Mm-hmm.
already seen quite a bit of cooling down because um, when people had nowhere else to go, they were going to Hamilton. And so they brought up the Hamilton market. But now, if people can pay a little bit more and live in the GTA, they're going
Mm-hmm.
to do that, right? Plus,
Mm-hmm.
there are some employers who are opening back up and expecting people to come back into the office. So that will change the dynamics of where people want to live.
Buying.
But really, at
Yes.
the end of the day, it comes down to, what can you afford, and do you need to buy more than you can afford? Like, or do you need to, even if you can afford it, do you need to have it? Sometimes I think it's like we're in this mindset where we need to have more than we need, right? Like it's that
Mm-hmm.
mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's re-looking at that piece also.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
How about Miss Watson comparing GDA to in Calgary?
Calgary is actually very affordable, and so Calgary is actually very affordable. And we, for a while there, we were seeing a lot of like builders
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to you know GTA agents to see if they had clients who were looking to move to the neighborhood. So Calgary is actually quite a bit more affordable than, even though they were affordable, the prices were still climbing up quite a bit,
A bit.
right? Because
Yeah.
compared to what they were. I myself had a client who actually at the start of the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
um, was looking to buy with me and then ended up moving to Calgary, and, her whole family ended up moving because uh, there was some, like at the start of the thing, they were doing some job shavings, and so she ended
Mm-hmm.
up moving to Calgary, and she ended up getting like a house compared to out here we were looking at like condo townhouses, so the
Mm-hmm.
price, and for a lot less, right? So um and now she's working there and everything is good. So I mean, definitely I think the Calgary market's a lot better than the GTA market,
Mm-hmm.
although I think the prices have gone up there too just as much.
Mm-hmm. So, what
Mhm.
are the difference, Miss Watson? Just to empower those people thinking, why is it that GTA or Vancouver are greater, higher increase of housing market? The prices is so high.
Yeah, they're big metropolitan cities, right? And there's a lot of um, uh, you know, I guess business happening out here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, they've voted a bigger. I mean, Toronto's a really good city to live in. Vancouver's a really good city. Canada ranks pretty high,
Mm-hmm.
as good places to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the biggest cities that people look at when they're looking to move, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they tend to be on the higher side. And because I guess Toronto is already at its capacity. So if you get to, maybe Calgary, where it's a little less developed and there's more area to like actually branch out and develop some more,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a little different. Like in Toronto, like unless you're going to the outskirts of Toronto, like in the greater Toronto area, um, and where you can see more development. Toronto's got its capacity, so a lot of what you see is like high rise, and they do have their homes and stuff, and but the capacity to build anymore is already kind of curtailed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're paying that high dollar value um, for that area
So
because
yeah.
it's so much demand, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, congratulations for your blog. What it's all about, Miss Watson? Can you tell us?
So my website actually I put out a blog on my website every month, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just to empower people to understand a bit more. So my last blog was about assignments and assignment sale,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's about, if so what an assignment is let's say someone buys a house, um, but doesn't really want to move into that house, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to sell it before they actually take title of it. And there's a way of doing it because they've bought the house from the builder, it's brand new, it hasn't been titled to anyone, and
Mm-hmm.
they have a deed for it. I mean, they have a paperwork from the builder for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like they would sell it to a third party, and that person becomes party to the assignment, right? To the
Mm-hmm.
sale. And it's a little complicated, but I've been having a lot of people asking me about assignments and purchasing assignments,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they were not aware of like the complications. And I'm kind of one of those people that I feel I need to be transparent and tell people um, the good and the bad and the
Mm-hmm.
ugly, and then they make their decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I was sharing that piece of it, and um, the assignment was a topic that I did, and I think it's a good read for people who want to know more about assignments and just to get the straight goods on it, right?
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah,
Miss Watson, for empowering us. So,
thank
people,
you.
where do people reach you?
So you can reach me on Instagram at J Watson Homes, on Facebook at Homes for Sale by J Watson, by Jacqueline Watson, sorry, and on my website, jacquelinewatson.ca. Um, and once again, I'm a realtor with Sutton Group Tower in Toronto, and you can find me at, realtor.ca, oh, everywhere, really,
Yes, Miss Watson is everywhere.
everywhere.
Even on my podcast, you can contact me. And where's
Awesome.
Miss Watson? I can give you the details about Miss Watson. Thank you.
Awesome.
A shout out to the people listening in Ontario. We have a good listener out there, Miss Watson. Say hi to them.
Hello, and thank you so much for supporting this podcast and listening.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Miss
Thank
Watson.
you, Danielle.
Talk to you soon. More to come, people. See you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.